My ungrateful daughter said, "I love you." But I refused to say it back because I don't believe in it. Now she has gone NC. Her mom and other siblings ganged up on me, demanding an "I love you," saying I'm not the great father figure I think I am, and went NC. I don't regret a damn thing. I 58M have 7 kids, 4 daughters and 3 sons. My youngest daughter is 22, and lately, we've been having a serious falling out over something that I know will sound small to a lot of people. But it honestly cuts deep in my world. She wants me to say, "I love you" to her, and I won't. That probably already makes me sound like an emotionally stunted caveman. But hear me out. I come from a family where nobody said those words. I mean nobody. My dad, a WW2 vet, believed actions mattered, not words. He worked 3 jobs to support us. He was never affectionate, but we never doubted he cared. My mom was more nurturing, but still never said, "I love you." Instead, it was, "I'm proud of you," or "You made my day," or just showing up every concert, every birthday, every moment that counted. That's how I learned love was shown. Through presence, sacrifice, and support. That's how I've always lived. I never told a girlfriend I loved her growing up. It made me physically uncomfortable. I never said it to my wife, even though we've been married 34 years. She knew early on that I didn't say it, and we've worked around it. I show her I love her every day. I take care of what she needs. I fix things around the house without her asking. And I never forget an anniversary. She's used to it now. When it came to our kids, I raised them the same way. I was always there. I worked a stable job, came home every night, took them camping, and never missed a graduation. When they were sick, I slept on the floor of their rooms. When one of my sons got bullied in high school, I drove 90 minutes on my lunch break just to sit with him in the counselor's office. I never said, "I love you," but I showed it. Always. Now here's where things shift. My youngest daughter, Maya, is the only one who seems to struggle with this. She's always been different from the others, more sensitive, more verbal, and more in tune with emotional nuances. She spent more time around my wife's family than the others did, especially after some of my older relatives passed away. And my wife's side is very expressive. They say, "I love you" constantly. At the end of every call, every visit, even texts. It's just how they operate. So Maya grew up absorbing a completely different love language than I did. And honestly, it never really clashed until recently. For most of her life, when she said, "Love you," I'd say, "You too." I figured that was enough of a compromise. I wasn't rejecting her, just saying it my way. But over the past year or so, I noticed a shift. She started pressing more, lingering after calls, waiting for me to say the actual words. At one point, she even texted me an article about how emotional expression from fathers affects daughters' future relationships. I kind of brushed it off. I thought maybe she was going through a phase or just trying to get a reaction. But it wasn't a phase. We had a phone call last week. Just a normal, catching up type call. She's in her last year of grad school and stressed with job applications and a recent breakup. I listened, I gave advice, and I told her I believed in her. At the end, she said, "Love you," and I said, "You too." But she didn't hang up right away. She said, "Can I ask you something kind of serious?" I said, "Sure." Then she hit me with it. "Why don't you ever say, 'I love you' back?" There was a silence on my end. Not because I was shocked she'd hinted at it before, but because I wasn't sure how to answer in a way she'd understand. Finally, I said what I've always believed. Because meaningful love is shown through actions, not just words. She replied, "Yeah, but words matter too." I told her I understood that for some people, sure. But I've never felt comfortable saying things I don't mean in the way people expect them. To me, saying, "I love you" feels like putting on a costume. It's not authentic to who I am. And it feels like I'm doing it because someone else needs it. Not because it's my natural expression of love. She said, "I want you to say it. Just once. I need to hear it from you." I paused. And then I said, as gently as I could, "Sweetie, you can't force me to say something that doesn't feel honest to me." That was the moment the whole tone shifted. She went quiet for a second and then said, "Then I guess I won't talk to you again until you're ready to say it." I thought she was bluffing. Maya's always been the dramatic one, passionate, yes, but also prone to intense feelings, and then cooling off a few hours later. I figured she'd sleep it off, text me the next day, and we'd move on. But I was wrong. The next day, I walked into the living room, and my wife was on the phone. She looked up and said, "Oh, Maya's on the line. Wait, hun, your dad just walked in." She held the phone out like she wanted to pass it to me. And then her face changed. She pulled it back to her ear and said, What do you mean you don't want to talk to him? She glanced at me and mouthed, she doesn't want to talk to you unless you say it. Even my wife laughed at the absurdity of it. Not in a mocking way, but kind of a, really? We've gotten to this point kind of laugh. And here's where it gets complicated. Because while part of me was annoyed, like, seriously, we're doing emotional blackmail now, another part of me started wondering if maybe I'd missed something. Maybe I'd screwed up. I didn't say anything right then. Just sat down, let my wife finish her call, and tried to act like it didn't bother me. But it did. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying the conversation. Not just what Maya said, but how quickly she was willing to cut me off. 22 years of being there for her, gone. Just because I wouldn't say, I love you, like it's some magic phrase that fixes everything. I don't understand how it became a condition. Like love has to come in one format, or it doesn't count. I started thinking back. Maya's always been the one who struggled with feeling heard. In high school, she once got in a shouting match with my second oldest daughter, saying the rest of the family made her feel like an outsider. She was 15 then. I thought it was teenage hormones. My wife sat her down and talked to her for an hour. I took her out for ice cream the next day. I didn't say anything deep. I just hung out, made her laugh, and bought her the expensive shoes she wanted. That was my way of fixing things. But maybe it wasn't enough. 2 years ago, when her roommate bailed on rent, she called me in tears. I didn't lecture her, didn't ask questions. I wired the money the same day. She cried on the phone and said thank you. I told her, of course, I'm your dad. That was it. No emotional pep talk. Just action. But now I wonder, was she silently building a case all this time? Feeling like she kept giving me verbal love and never got it back? I don't know. I tried asking my older kids what they thought. My second oldest son, 30M, said, "You're not wrong, Dad. But times are different." Maya's part of that generation that says, I love you, like it's punctuation. My eldest daughter, 32F, said something that stuck. It's not that you don't love her. But if you know she needs to hear it, and you won't say it, that's when it becomes about power. I don't see it that way. To me, it's not about control. It's about not cheapening something that means more than words. But the more I sit with it, the more I start to feel boxed in. If I say it now, am I just caving? Giving in to emotional blackmail? What happens the next time she wants something and threatens to go no contact? Do I have to perform a version of myself that doesn't feel natural just to keep a relationship going? But if I don't say it, does that mean I'm letting pride matter more than my daughter? This isn't about one phone call. It's about 22 years of parenting that she's suddenly saying wasn't good enough. I feel like I'm being put on trial for how I express love, when I've never once failed to show it. I asked my wife how serious Maya was. She said, very. She's hurt. This isn't a stunt. She also said, you've never told me you love me either, and I've accepted it. But sometimes, yeah, I do wish I'd heard it just once. That hit harder than I expected. I told her, I married you. I built a life with you. Doesn't that say it? She said, it does. But people still want to hear it. So now I'm sitting with this question. Do I bend on something that feels deeply wrong to me, that feels fake, just to keep peace? Or do I stand my ground and accept that Maya might walk away for good over this? I know people will say, just say it. It's 3 words. But it's not just 3 words to me. It's about not letting my daughter or anyone dictate how I express love. It's about not reducing decades of actions and sacrifice to a sentence said under pressure. If I say it now, I don't think she'll believe it. It'll just be another win in her emotional scoreboard. And then what? I've never said those words in my entire life. Not to my parents, not to my wife, not to any of my 7 kids. And yet I've given everything to them. I do love Maya. Of course I do. But the way she's demanding it, it makes me feel like nothing I've done matters. So now she won't talk to me. Says she's waiting for me to be ready. Whatever that means. My wife thinks I should just say it once and move on. That it's not worth the fallout. My older kids are split. Half say I should give her what she needs. The other half say she's being manipulative. And I'm stuck. Torn between what I've always believed and the risk of losing my daughter over a sentence I can't bring myself to say. So Reddit Ada. Comments. Comment 1. So you don't love her. Because otherwise, why won't you say it? You're just telling the truth. You're not being asked to fake something. Just because you show it by actions doesn't mean you can't also say it once in a while. And yes, your way of showing love might have been enough for the others, but it's not for her. She's not trying to erase your past. She's telling you what she needs now. Your refusal reminds me of people who never say sorry. My mom is like that. She believes apologizing doesn't undo what happened, so there's no point. But you don't apologize for yourself, you do it because it acknowledges the other person's hurt. It's the same with saying, I love you. It's not about you. It's about making the person you love feel seen and safe. She's telling you her love language. You're telling her to shut up and take yours. YTA. Comment 2. Let's say she dies tomorrow, and you find a letter in her journal that says, I just wish my dad had said he loved me. Just once. Tomorrow night, would you wish you'd said it? Because that's what this is. She's basically giving you that letter now. You're just lucky she's not dead yet. And instead of hearing her, you're making it about your discomfort. She's 22, not 5. She knows the difference between, I love you said in a genuine way and one said just to placate. If you do love her, why wouldn't you want to give her this? What's more important, keeping up some cold family tradition, or making sure your daughter knows in her language that she's loved? YTA for digging in your heels. Comment 3. YTA, here's an action for you. Open your mouth and say the 3 words your daughter needs to hear. Not because she's manipulating you, not because she's immature, but because she's screaming into the void and hoping someone in her own family will meet her emotionally. She's told you what would make her feel loved. You responded with, I won't do it because it feels fake to me. Real love means sometimes stretching your comfort zone for the sake of the people you care about. You're not being asked to change who you are just to meet her halfway once, and you still refuse. Update. I read the responses. I got called every name in the book. Some of you were fair. Some were just projecting. But I respect and read almost every comment. After that, I didn't sleep well for a couple nights. I kept replaying Maya's voice in my head. So I tried to meet her halfway. I wrote her a letter. 3 pages, handwritten. I told her everything I never said out loud. About the night she was born. About when she got pneumonia as a toddler, and I sat up all night making sure her fever didn't spike. About the time in high school she almost dropped out of theater because of stage fright, and I stayed up rehearsing with her for a week straight. I told her those moments were my I love yous. I wrote, I'm not built to say it, but I've always lived it. I mailed it without telling her. She texted me 3 days later. Said the letter made her cry. Said she appreciated it. She didn't say she forgave me, but she did ask if we could talk. I said yes. We had a phone call that weekend. It wasn't warm, but it wasn't cold either. We talked about her job search. She told me her ex reached out. I gave her my usual blunt advice. We laughed once. At the end of the call, she said, love you. I said, you too. There was a pause. Then she said, I know. And hung up. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, we've spoken twice. Texted a few times. But something still felt off. She was polite, but distant. Like she was still waiting for something. I started thinking maybe I really had to say it. Just once. Just to kill the silence between us. I figured if the letter didn't fully land, maybe the words would, even if I had to grit my teeth through it. So last week, I called her. She picked up, surprised. We talked about nothing in particular, weather, her apartment, my car needing repairs. And then I said it. I forced it out. I love you. There was silence. Long enough, I thought the call dropped. Then she said, that didn't sound like you. I didn't know how to respond. She said, did you mean it? I said, I wouldn't have said it if I didn't. That was a lie. I said it to get her off my back. To try and fix the problem. It felt like checking a box. Get the emotion out of the way and move on. She didn't say, I love you back. Just said she had to go. The next day, she texted my wife. Long message. Said she felt like I said it under pressure. That it felt forced. That she didn't want words if they weren't real. She said, I don't want to be someone he performs for. I want to be someone he chooses to be vulnerable with. She hasn't spoken to me since. My wife read the text and didn't even look at me for a full day. When she finally did, she said, you should have just left it at the letter. Then my second oldest daughter called. Said Maya told her everything. She said, she's not asking you to change who you are. She's asking you to meet her as your daughter. And you treated it like a task. Then she said something that pissed me off. You're not as good at love as you think you are. My middle son texted me too. Just one line. Why is it so hard for you to care in the way people need? That one cut deep. I didn't respond to either of them. I sat with it. Thought about what everyone said. The comments. The texts. The fallout. I keep being told I'm wrong. That I failed her. That I should have just said it and meant it. That love isn't love if the person on the other side can't feel it. But here's the part nobody seems to care about. I've always loved her. Every day. In every way I knew how. Through long drives, surprise visits, midnight emergency calls, and fixing broken things she didn't even ask about. I've been there. Always. But that doesn't count if I don't say 3 words. I said to them. It didn't fix anything. It made it worse. This is why I never said it before. Because I knew the second I crossed that line, it would never be about the love I gave, it would only be about the words I didn't give. And now that I've said them once, I'm expected to keep saying them like a password to stay in her life. And here's the truth. I don't want to. I don't want to live on an emotional leash, needing to recite words to be seen as worthy. I know how this sounds. Cold. Old-fashioned. Emotionally stunted. Pick your insult. But I've lived a life of showing love, not saying it. And now I'm being told that all those years of consistency, support, and presence, none of it matters. That's what really stings. I'm not the arsehole Reddit made me out to be. I'm just a man who's loved his family in the only way he knew how. And suddenly that's not good enough anymore. So no, I'm not saying it again. Maya wants space. Fine. I won't chase her. I'll leave the door open. But I'm not stepping through it with a script. My wife and I aren't talking much right now. She's tired. I can feel it. She hasn't said it. But I think she's disappointed in how I handled it. My older kids, some are quiet, some are blunt. None of them are really on my side. But I'm not sorry. I tried it their way. I said the words. It made everything worse. I'll go back to my way. Quiet love. Steady hands. No grand declarations. Just showing up, always. If that's not enough, then maybe I was never the father they wanted in the first place. Comments. Comment 1. Jesus Christ, man. You emotionally stiff-armed your daughter for 22 years. And then when she finally asks for the bare effing minimum 3 words, you mumble them like you're swallowing nails, and then act shocked she didn't throw a effing parade. You didn't say it to heal. You said it to shut her up. That's not love. That's emotional manipulation with a bow on it. And now you're sitting here crying that no one's on your side. Because you blew it. And yeah, your wife's tired. Because being married to someone emotionally constipated for 30+ years is exhausting. Get therapy. Say the damn words. Actually mean them. Or don't, but don't pretend you're the victim here. Comment 2. I read this whole thing, and the only thing I kept thinking was how many people in your life are going to have to beg to be loved out loud before you realize you're the one out of step. Your daughter gave you everything. Her vulnerability, her truth, her pain. You gave her a performance. And now you're shocked she walked away. You think you're choosing dignity, but what you're really choosing is distance. One day, she might be gone for good. Not out of anger, but exhaustion. And you'll still be sitting there, proud that you never faked it, while holding an empty chair. Comment 3. You didn't say, I love you, to connect. You said it to check a box and buy silence. That's why it didn't land. That's why she pulled away. And deep down, you know it. You say you show up with actions, but when your daughter spelt out the one action she truly needed, you treated it like a trick or a trap. This wasn't about a script, it was about intimacy. She asked you to meet her where she is, and instead you dragged her back to where you're stuck. You're not a bad man, but you are a closed one, and in your refusal to open up, you've taught your daughter that asking for love is dangerous. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.